Welcome to the It's in Queens podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Simmons, and this is the only podcast that focuses exclusively on Queens, the borough that truly has it all. From its vibrant cultural diversity to its rich history, this borough stands out as a treasure trove of experiences. This podcast is proudly brought to you each week by the Queens Economic Development Corporation and the Queens Tourism Council. These organizations work tirelessly to showcase our borough as a destination filled with amazing opportunities, cultural gems, unforgettable experiences for residents, workers, and visitors alike. Let's dive into one of the many aspects that makes this borough so special, the strength and vibrancy of its Latin American communities. Queens is home to a diverse array of Latin cultures that have shaped the borough into a dynamic, colorful mosaic. In fact, Hispanic and Latino Americans make up over about 1/4 of the population here, with strongholds across neighborhoods like Corona, my neighborhood of Jackson Heights, Elmhurst, East Elmhurst, Woodside, Ridgewood, and Ozone Park. Each community contributes its own traditions, flavors, and rhythms. Whether it's Colombian arepas in Corona or Ecuadorian ceviche in Jackson Heights, the Latin influence on local cuisine alone is enough to captivate anyone who visits here. But it is not just food. These neighborhoods are alive with music and dance and art and festivals that celebrate their heritage year-round. So that's why I want to tell you about an amazing event that's coming up on May 2nd through May 4th. The Latin Culture and Dance Fiesta returns to Queens Theatre in Flushing Meadows, Corona Park. This beloved festival celebrates the rich heritage and artistic traditions of Latin America through concerts, theater performances, and so much more. And to give us more insight into this exciting weekend event, I'm joined this week by Willy Mosquera, QueensTheatre's front of house manager and curator of this year's Fiesta. Willy Mosquera, welcome to the It's in Queens podcast.
Hey, thank you for having me here, Jeff. Thank you. This is great.
Let us start off by finding out more about you. Tell me about your career journey and how you became involved with Queens Theatre.
Okay, so my life has always been mainly in rock and roll. I was in rock and roll bands and this and that, and somewhere in the mid 80s, I met the ex-director of Queens Theatre, Jeff Rosenstock, and we were both working as waiters at a midtown restaurant called Caramba in New York City on 8th Avenue and 54th Street. So our friendship led into him being the manager of my band. And we did pretty well. I mean, like some industry, companies were interested in the band, blah, blah, blah. Make everything short. That ended up like, I don't know, a year and a half later. And then Jeff went his way, I went my way. But he had told me that he had worked in a place called Queens Theatre. All right. And one of those omens to the future, in 1986, we did a photo session here in Queens Theatre on stage with my band, not knowing that in 4 years I was going to start working here.
Wow.
So in 1990, Jeff already had submitted, a proposal to the city. He got the building. That was in 1989, or towards late 89. So 1990, he calls me. He says, "Hey, Willy, I need you to come in with your band so you could help us demolish some walls." So we came in with the band, and we came into what we call today the studio theater, our black box. And that was like office space. And somebody else who used to work here with a vision, he said, "We want to make this into a black box." We demolished all those walls, and we made it into a pretty black box with like 4 top tables, and we started doing like musicals, like small scale musicals, maybe a piano player, 3-4 great actors, great singers. And the first thing we did here was a musical called A Wing and a Prayer. It was more like based on the 1940s and World War II. Beautiful musical, great actors. And it was supposed to run for 2 weekends, like Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. But it was so successful that it went for like 14 weekends, right? And then everything we were doing here, it was getting packed every weekend. So our ex-borough president from back then, Claire Schulman, she actually gave us like between $3 and $4 million to renovate the entire building. So today, when people come into this building and they're doing a show in the studio theater, I tell them this room is responsible for what this building looks like today.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that was my beginning with Queens Theatre, and back then I did a little construction. Then I became a stagehand, I was doing bartending jobs. I was doing concessions. I was doing box office because we were all starting out, so we were doing many different wearing many different hats, and then in 1997 we created like the first Latino cultural festival, and that was I was a associate programming director of that festival for like 17 years, I guess, until I became the program director.
And currently your title is front of house manager. Talk a little about what that role involves.
Yeah, so for house manager, I mean, I've been doing this almost from the beginning. It's me welcoming, the public, the audience, and sometimes I feel like a preacher at church when people are leaving because I stand right there and everybody comes and gives me a hug and says goodbye, and and especially when they love the shows. But it's a great thing. I mean, and I'm a people's person, so that was a perfect job for me. And you learn a lot. You learn a lot also from when you're talking to your audience. They tell you what they would like to see, what they like, what they didn't like, and then you start understanding what works also when you want to bring in new, or you want to showcase something new here. You have a better perspective of how to program for the theater.
And that's good to get that feedback. Not every institution does that. So it's great that on the way out, people can tell you what they liked or didn't like, and it helps to improve services. Queens Theater has a long history of promoting inclusivity and cultural awareness. How does this align with your vision for events like the Latin Culture and Dance Fiesta that's on the horizon?
I mean, to me, I'm the kind of person who I welcome everyone, and everything. So, and I've never been into like divisions, like this is here, this is here. I always been to like we're all together, and that's also because of my background in music. I somebody asked me the other day, how did my band differentiate with other bands when I was doing it back in the 80s and 90s? I said the difference was that we were a rock band, but we would fusion other genres of music into the rock that we were playing. So we would put flamenco, Latin jazz, where other bands weren't doing that. They couldn't do that. So, we put a lot of percussion. We made it sound tropical. And at other moments, we sound like Metallica, right? But why that happened? Because I came from the school when I was a kid in the 70s. So when I turned the radio on, I would listen to James Brown in the same station I was listening to Aerosmith and Queen and Michael
Hmm.
Jackson. You know what I'm saying? That kind of died out, and you probably understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, I do.
And then later on, like towards the 80s and 90s, everything was like, well, if you play this style of music, you're gonna go on this station. If you play, and I come from we're all the same, and, like music's music, and the same thing with theater. I mean, it's like it should we call it a Latin culture festival, but and even in the Latin world, okay, even in the Latin world, you got to remember there's so many different countries, and people think that because we all speak Spanish, we all like the same thing. No, that's there are some artists who might be big in their own country, but not necessarily international. And there's other artists that definitely they cover the whole thing, you know. So my goal was always, if you're really big in Colombia, you know what? I also want the rest of Latin America and the rest of like North America get to know who you are, because you do something that I think everybody should see it, and feel it.
Well, in terms of everyone should see it, let's get to the event itself. You've been doing this for a number of years now. Talk a little about how this fiesta has grown and what's going to make this year's event so unique that we want to get everyone to attend.
All right, I wouldn't. I don't want to call it unique, but I want to call it, more like exciting. It's just one small weekend, but like I said, and we use this term in music: less is more. Okay, I always tell people, promoters, I tell them, listen, when you present something that people want to say, I want more, but do not present something that people say, I don't want no more. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes they want to do like a 3 hour show, and
Mhm.
I tell them, narrow it down to 90 minutes. 90 minutes, people will definitely want more. But if you give them 3 hours, they'll say, no more, please. Right?
It's a
So,
very good point.
yes. So at the first weekend in May, on Friday, May 2nd, we're presenting a group, a folk group from Argentina. Now, it's not like our American folk, which is different. This is folkloric stuff. This is more like more towards the Andean world, world music. It's four guys who play great acoustic instruments and percussion, and a four-part harmony. Their voices are great, beautiful lyrics, beautiful songs, and they're coming in, and they're not representing entire Argentina. They're representing just one portion of Argentina, but they're basically anybody who loves world music. They will definitely love this group. They're called Sable. That's the name, Sable, right? And very nice guys. As a matter of fact, I always make a joke because one of the guys looks like Messi, the soccer player. And the first time I saw them, I said, "What is Messi doing singing with this guy?" But anyway, they'll be here. And then Saturday and Sunday, also on the main stage, we have a musical called Señor Bolero. And Señor Bolero is a story about a bar that actually is dying out, and the landlord wants to take it away from the owner. So he hires a very famous female a Cuban singer that she has a following to come perform at the venue. So that way they could actually raise some money and be able to pay the bills and pay the landlord some backup rent, and continue with their dreams and this and that. But it has a lot of comedy. It has a lot of touching moments. The best thing about it is great singers, live music, and they sing about like 30 iconic bolero songs. And sometimes people don't understand what a bolero is. Bolero is like, when you hear like songs like Perhaps, 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 that song actually was written in Spanish first.
Hmm.
And it was Quizás, 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 and then it was translated into English as Perhaps, Perhaps. And there's a lot of songs like that even Sinatra sang a lot of stuff that was it was translated from Spanish to English, the way we do English to Spanish. But these are beautiful songs. People definitely, even if they don't know Spanish, they will remember the melodies because they heard those songs also in English. Oh, the cool thing about this, Saturday night, the musical is in Spanish, and on Sunday at 3 o'clock is in English.
Very, very nice. What does it take? I mean, this is a lot of work to put something like this together each year.
Yes. All right. So another thing that I love to do is produce, or co-produce. So a lot of times I don't just go out there, programming this, and I don't go out there and just buy things and I go, okay, we'll buy this show and we'll pay whatever they say they want and bring them in. No, there's a lot of times that we'll have local people like the director and creator of Señor Bolero. His name is Ricardo Esteban. He's an amazing guy. He really believes in theater and musical and everything. I mean, he loves the arts, but he's also a very hardworking man. And I love to work with people like that because, he's not just, oh, listen, I have this show and can we put it in the theater? He's more like, I have this show. How can we do to make this thing bigger than it is or better? And so having that kind of energy, it makes me want to do this even more and believe in it more, because now it's not just me trying to present something that I think is great. It's also me with a person who's creating this, who wants to put it out there and believes in it and is willing to go all the way with, working hard also to make this a success. And those are the things that I look for when when I book something, and I make it part of the programming for the Latin cultural and dance fiesta.
I
And
think
see,
this
fiesta, I love that word.
Fiesta, I think this really illustrates Queen's Theater's mission to provide diverse programming that represents the many cultures here in Queens. I'd love for you to talk a little about that.
Okay, okay, let's repeat that.
Oh, this event
Yes.
really illustrates Queen's Theater's mission or vision to celebrate the diverse cultures of Queens.
Okay. So yes, it does. It does. And look, I come from an old school with the Queen's Theater. It's only been 34 years that I've been here, right?
Wait,
Still
wait,
be
you've been in Queen's Theater for 34 years.
34 years, yes.
Okay, we got to make you executive director.
and and I always tell people, I came here when I was 5 years old. All right.
That's
Anyway,
great.
so in the old school of Queen's Theater, at one point, we wanted to reach so many different communities that we ended up having the Latino Cultural Festival, the Asian Cultural Festival, the Greek Cultural Festival, the Italian Cultural Festival, the Irish Cultural Festival. We had all this. They were all mini festivals, but the whole point was that we wanted to let people understand that this building is for everyone. And the same thing with, like, obviously we started with the Latin Cultural Festival because with Jeff Rosenthal, we used to stand in the lobby and watch, especially like during like springtime, summertime. We would watch tons of families walk in front of the building towards the soccer fields in Flushing Meadow Park. And Jeff used to like scratch his head and he used to tell me, he says, how do we get these people to understand that this building is also for them, that they should come in, and until one day he says, how about if we do like a little cultural festival? And I was totally with it. And I said, let's do this. And in 1997, we created that in order to actually go to the fields and invite these people to come into the building. And that opened doors for like a lot of people from like I said, from different communities. Because then we continue with all these other festivals, But like the goal was, just because it's a Greek festival doesn't mean that we only want Greek people. We want everyone to come and also enjoy a culture that you may not be acquainted with, but they have great stuff. So I think that right now we don't do different festivals, but we try to get everyone into this house, saying, we don't care where you come from, we don't care who you are, what you are. This is your house too. Come inside. You know what I'm saying?
My impression is that you really love your job.
I do. I do. I love my job. Yes.
And what do you love about it?
Like I said, first of all, I mean, the people. I'm a people's person. And I always tell somebody, I always say to people, if somebody doesn't get along with me, it's because they have a problem. So I don't have the problem. Okay. If somebody tells me I don't like you, Willie, hey, you have a problem. Because, I'm just Willie. You know what I'm saying?
King Willy.
King Willie. You know what I'm saying? Um, I love that. I'm a person who I get along with, and I'm a team player. You know what I'm saying? I always believe in that. That's why I always have bands. Listen, Jeff. I mean, I I recorded an album called Poemas de mi Padre in 2011, 2012, right? Poemas de mi Padre and my musical expression. Okay, I put the album out. I submitted it to the Latin Grammys. I was chosen in 6 categories for a Latin Grammy. Okay, pre-nominated. Okay, but I was already 47 years old when I did this, and I said to myself, why didn't I just go solo when I was 20? But I always believed being part of a band, with the team. So that's why I consider myself a team player, And here in the theater, I get along with everyone in production and the development, operations, whatever it is. I get along with everyone. I don't have any problems, any beef with anybody. And I love working with each department. If anybody needs my help, I'm there. If they need their help, they're there. So that makes it great. And then also when I program things, I love the challenges of making sure that the artist has a good experience in the theater, but also making sure that we get the people into the theater, and that once they're in the theater, I like to see happy faces after a show that I decided that it was going to be good for the community. And if I see people leaving the theater and saying to me, "That was excellent. I'm coming back. I'm signing up for your mailing list," to me that's big.
And
Makes me.
before I let you go, just
Yeah.
to recap, the Latin Culture and Dance Fiesta is on the horizon in early May. That first weekend starting on Friday, May 2nd. One more pitch from you for anyone who's listening to this podcast, why they should put this on their calendar.
Like I said, if you're out there and you really enjoy world music, there's a lot of people out there that love groups like Inti Illimani, which they're known worldwide. You want to come see Sabo from Argentina, and if you have any Argentinian friends, let them know, because they're going to feel really proud of their country and their people. This is a great, great, great group, and Senor Bolero, it's a musical that it's going to sing you home with all this beautiful emotions, between being happy because you had a good laugh, but also it touched your heart because there's a story. I'm not going to get into the story. You have to come see it. But a great cast. I mean, great musicians, great actors, and it's good theater. So I think it's going to be a really good weekend. And if people actually come in, they're not going to go home disappointed. You know.
And on that note, I want to also encourage our listeners, if you do go that weekend, on the way out, you will see Willy, because he's going to greet you when you come in, and he's going to say goodbye to you. Make sure to shake his hand and say hello. Willy Mosquera, thank you so much for appearing here on the It's in Queens podcast.
Thank you, Jeff. I really appreciate for this opportunity. And just to end it, like you said, they're going to see me here. Friday night, my son has a concert in where he goes to school, and I can't go because I have to be here at Queen's Theater. Okay. And that's where you're going to see me. Okay. Friday, May 2nd. I'll be here, not at my son's concert. Okay.
Okay. Good luck
Thank
on
you.
that one. Good luck on remedying that family issue.
Thank you, Jeff.
Queens never ceases to amaze with its diversity and cultural richness. From its neighborhoods to its festivals, like the Latin Culture and Dance Fiesta, there's always something new to explore. So don't forget to grab your tickets for this unforgettable event happening May 2nd through May 4th at Queen's Theatre. And if you're looking for something else to do this month, or really any month, we always have you covered here at the It's in Queens podcast, because that is where Rob Mackay comes in. Each and every week, he brings us details on some of the more exciting events that are happening in our borough. Here's this week's report.
Hi, Jeff. Are you ready for some retail therapy? The Astoria Spring Retail Crawl is back, and it runs from April 25th to May 4th this year. They do it a lot, but it's somewhat unique adventure, so let me just give a few details. First of all, a group of locally owned independent stores are involved. And to participate, you or anybody else picks up a passport at any one of them, and then you shop at the other stores and make sure that your passport is signed whenever you spend at least $10 at one of these stores. Then you turn in your passport by May 7th to get some free stuff. You have to turn into the Brass Owl, which is a boutique at 3619 Ditmars Boulevard. And of course, the more shops you visit, the more prizes you earn. And I should probably add that prizes include coupon bundles, tote bags, baseball caps, and candles. I know that this isn't really thorough. You probably have some more questions. You can get them all via Shop Small Astoria on social media. It's a long-going effort. It's called Shop Small Astoria. Check it out on social media. They'll give you the names and the addresses of all the participating stores and any other details you might want. All right, Jeff, thank you. I'll see you in the week. Good luck with all your swag.
Thanks, Rob. And Rob, by the way, is with the Queens Economic Development Corporation and the Queens Tourism Council. He really has his finger on the pulse of this borough. Now remember, there's so much more that goes on in our borough. And if you're wondering where to go to discover everything, well, I'm going to tell you. You head right over to the It's in Queens website. And that website address is itsinqueens.com. And if you're interested in more business-related news, how to help your business or a friend's or a family member's, well, then make a point to visit the Queens Economic Development Corporation's website at queensny.org. And when you're there, sign up for their newsletter. And by the way, when you attend the cultural festival I've been telling you about on this episode, snap some photos and make sure to use the hashtag #It'sInQueens if you post on Instagram or X, because your photo could become our photo of the week. I'm your host, Jeff Simmons, and that's it for this week's It's in Queens podcast.